Today, as we talk about walking with the prophets, I would like to talk about a single word this week and next week, but different topic next week. Let's talk about passion. Say it with me, passion. Now, when I say passion, I'm not talking about the Lenten season, okay? I'm talking about what you desire the most, passion in terms of what you desire the most to do and to be. Okay? And hopefully, you do because of an end you want to be. The bad thing is when you're doing something just for the sake of doing it without any end in sight. Because if we are doing something for the sake of doing it without any end in sight or a bigger goal, that is an animalistic instinct. Okay? That is how animals live. They just they just do everything based on instinct. You know, some of you are cat lovers, some of you are dog lovers, some are bird lovers, and some people they think that those animals can talk to them. Remember Bishop Angie? She thought her Chihuahua can speak and called her mommy. Now, that is a bishop right there, you know. But she thought her Chihuahua called her mommy. You can make these things up. But some people, they are very passionate about something. They dedicate not only their lives, but what they have. I talked to you about that real estate magnate in New York. She willed, I don't know how many $1 billion of her money after she died to the dogs, to the cause of the dogs. Now that is her passion. We may not understand, but that is her passion. Some of you have your own passions. I would like to say, to qualify this, my wife, perhaps before she got born again, she has many passions. Where's my wife? Oh, she likes bags. She likes shoes, you know, and she likes business. Those are her passions. She has passion for the Catholic Church. Yeah. On Monday, she goes to this church. On Tuesday, she goes to another church. I mean, all the spots of the Catholic worship in the Philippines, she wants to go to. That is her passion. And so what I would like us to ask ourselves is, what is it that can move us the most? There has to be something that moves us. Because if we're just moving for the sake of moving, then again, that's animal instinct. Some have visions, some have skills and knowledge, but they don't have enough passion to move them forward. In Tagalog, we say, walang buhay, you know, there's no life. Or you ask somebody to join you on something, they say, walang kalatoy-latoy, you know. What's the English of latoy, you know? But you know, some people, hey, do you like this? You want to go there? You want a black eye? You know, they're just nothing. It's just like they are zombies. But there are some people, you talk about something, they're into it. They are very passionate. And so that is what I'm talking about. Jeremiah was driven, he said this, the word of the Lord came to him like fire in his bones. Now look at this. His passion to proclaim the word. Now remember when Jeremiah was preaching, God told him, you will preach to an obstinate people with a hardened heart, and they will not listen to you. But why in the world did this guy keep preaching? Because whenever the word of the Lord comes to him, he says, it feels like fire shut up in my bones. Now, can you imagine to have that kind of passion? Some people say, well, the Lord told me this, the word of the Lord came to me, and yet it doesn't move you. Like, there's no passion to it. Now, you can be a very skillful person, you can even be a very smart person, But if you have no passion towards what you are doing or who you are or what you are, it will not move you. You'll just be half-hearted in everything that you do. Now Jesus said this, the zeal of thine house consumed me. Now some people quote that verse and they don't know what it means. Now remember when Jesus said that the zeal of thine house consumed me, he took a whip and drove out money changers. He turned the tables of mind changers and sellers of doves. Why? Because of the zeal of God. No, this one man, perhaps around 5'6", 5'7" in height. Some people go as low as 5'4". They say the height of Jesus. But let's put it at 5'7", for example. And you are surrounded in the temple with a lot of people. Now, these are market people. And so they are strong. But it didn't stop Jesus. He said, the zeal of thine house consumed me. It consumed him to the point that he drove those who were desecrating the house of God. You see, that is what passion does. Now, Paul declared this. He said, I cannot be unfaithful to the heavenly vision. You see, Paul had a passion before. His passion, he said, as far as zeal, unequal. His zeal towards the tradition of the fathers, the Pharisees, was so strong. This little man, the name Paul means little. And all the historical description of Paul tells me that most of us are taller than him. You know, he's got a big nose, prominent of a Jew, but more prominent for him. Big nose, and they say he's got bald head, bow-legged, and they say that because of intense labor, he doesn't stand straight. He's bent when he's walking. Maybe because he walks so much. Can you imagine this guy? He was stoned outside of Lystra. And then this is when historians believe that Paul was caught up in the third heaven and saw a vision that he said, I cannot speak of, whether in the body or in the spirit, I cannot speak of it. So historical theologians believe that at that point when Paul was stoned, he died. And the believers gathered around him, and the Lord caught him to the third heaven, brought him back to life. He stood up and said, okay, what's next? And he went to the next town and preached. You know, some people, you give them a little bit of challenge in their faith, they quit. Paul died. Paul was, I mean, how many times was he shipwrecked? He was beaten 40 save 1 couple of times. I mean, in famine, in hunger, talk about passion. None of the difficulties in life stopped Paul from doing what he was called to do. Because he said, I am not unfaithful to the heavenly vision. You see? So your passion will bring out faithfulness in your life to finish whatever task is it that you have committed yourself to. Now, last week we talked about walking with the fathers. Now, one of the things that we saw as a difference between the fathers and their descendants is the presence and absence of passion. Okay? We know that Abraham was a very passionate guy. Jacob, perhaps, was the most passionate of the patriarchs. And that he is what we're going to study today. We can take the examples of other characters like Saul and David. Look at Saul. Look at David. David, he went to the front of the battle. You know, it's in front of 2 hills. I can remember the name of one hill. It's called Tel Michael. The opposite, I forgot the name. But they were just at its shouting distance. And Goliath would stand up and say, give me your champion. If he wins, we will be under service to you. If I win, you'll all be our slaves. And then Saul was the tallest. He was the tall, dark, and handsome, and he was also rich. And he overcome the Philistines earlier on. You have to remember, as a hero. And so you would think, especially in the war times in those days, the kings lead. You would think that Saul will stand up and say, well, I'm the tallest, I'm the strongest, I'm the anointed one, the Lord will never let me die, I'll fight Goliath. He hid, his generals could not do anything. And here's this little boy, David, maybe between the age of 14 to 17. He saw that big giant, which is perhaps around 7 feet tall. Have you ever guys seen a 7-footer? Man, it's very intimidating when you see them, especially when they're big. I was in one airport at one time, and here's this European electrician. My estimate is he's over 7 feet tall. And I look at him like this. You don't want to mess with a guy like that, He's carrying his tools, and he's not a skinny, tall guy like Manute Bol, Remember Manute Bol when he was playing basketball for the Philadelphia 76ers? Charles Barkley wrote a book and called him one-dimensional stick pole, because the guy is just a stick, It's very skinny. But this electrician that I saw in the airport is huge, muscular. I'm telling you, he's big. You can only see little guys fight him in the movies, But seeing a big guy like that, so if Goliath is around 7 feet tall, and David between 14 to 17, is probably around 5'4", 5'5" in height, depending on his age. But he's a short guy in those days. And he saw the thing, and he says, who is that uncircumcised Philistine who dared to defy the army of the living God? Now, that is one kind of a trash talk, If you're going to trash talk somebody, pick somebody your size. But that guy is around 7 feet tall, muscular, and I think the tip of his spear or javelin is several pounds already, just the tip. And David looked at him and says, my zeal for the name of the Lord is bigger than my life. And he went ahead and fought Goliath. Now that is passion, okay? If the church, if you and I will just be passionate over the things of God, or over what we believe is God's will for our lives, we will be restless until we see the fruition of what we claim we want. Now, this is when we separate those who are just all talk. A lot of people are just all talk. I told you some time ago, most people don't think. But I'll tell you this, most people just talk. But there is no passion. And when there is no passion, the driving force within you will be very different. Saul was not a passionate king. Remember when he was called to become king? He did not show himself right away. He was hiding. He doesn't want to be discovered. And finally, when the people of Israel were attacked by the enemies, they were looking for a champion, so they decided to cast lots. And finally, after several lotteries, the household of Kish was chosen, and Saul was chosen. And there was, where is this Saul? And they saw him. He was not standing up because he was the tallest. Perhaps he was sitting down on a bushel. He was hiding. And then when he stood up, he was a head taller than everybody else. But the guy has this is something. The guy has no passion for the kingdom. And I was looking at that. That is one of the basic mistakes that any leadership situation commit. We put people with no passion. Yeah. Well, I know that person. That person is rich. That person looks good. And the guy has no fire in their belly. There's nothing inside. but we appoint them anyways. So what happened is, when you have somebody with no passion like that, it's gone. I mean, it's not going to go anywhere. I mean, for some people, when it comes to passion, they're only talking about marriage. But you can talk about that too. When the passion in one's marriage is gone, that marriage is dead because there's no fire. There has to be some kind of passion that will drive the couple to make sure that everything stays on fire. Now, it turned out later on in his life, because Saul was just living as a king. Okay, I'll give you my armor and all of those things to David, and then he won. I'll give you my daughter, and then he backed up later. But we only saw passion in Saul's life after God took the crown from him. And Samuel anointed David. Now suddenly, well, we may call it passion, but actually he was driven by jealousy and personal hatred. Okay? And some people are driven by that. Can you imagine if you're just driven by jealousy or personal hatred or selfishness? And a lot of people are driven by that. You know how I illustrated before, you look at the kids, they don't like this toy until somebody says, I like that toy. Then they will fight for that. And we have seen that. They don't like the toy, but because somebody likes it, they took it, and then when they took it, they don't play with it or they destroy it. They have nothing on that toy. They don't like it. But they're just jealous. And we have to be mindful or conscious why we are doing what we're doing. Because what if we are just driven by envy or by jealousy? And that is what propels us to keep doing what we are doing. There are right and there are wrong passions. So the question is this: how do you feel towards the faith that your fathers and those who were before you have? Now, I was born a Roman Catholic. I have absolutely no passion for Roman Catholicism. You know, even as a little boy, I never liked religion really. I will go to church. I know I go to church only during Christmas. It's a must because your parents will call you a pagan if you don't go to church. On Good Friday, you have to go to church. I did not go to church necessarily on the Easter Sunday, but on Good Friday, you have to go to church. And then on my birthdays, my parents will tell me, pass by the church. Well, it's good because our elementary school is in a Catholic convent, so I'll pass by, but I will not go inside. I have no passion for that. But I have a desire to go to heaven. As a little boy, I have that desire. I don't like to go to hell because when I was studying Roman Catholic catechism, I was already taught that there is heaven and there is hell. And I don't like the idea of going to hell. And so that is something that have never left me. You know, I was very conscious that there is hell, and I don't like to go to hell. So even though I was never a religious person, I never liked to go to hell. And in my heart of hearts, I was looking to find out, how am I going to go to heaven? That's why when my kuya testified to me, in my mind, I already surrendered. In fact, if my kuya just asked me, you want to receive Jesus as your Savior, I would have said yes right there and then and have followed him in prayer. But he did not. He just left me alone. Okay? And then that passion started burning in my soul. Nobody asked me to go to church. I've read the New Testament, Psalms and Proverbs, except Revelation. And one weekday, I told my kuya, I want to go to church with you. It was going to Pasig. We were living in Navotas. So I want to go to church with you this Sunday. And I never told him that my only reason for going to church is I want to receive the Lord as my Savior. And after I've read the Bible and the literatures, I don't know how to receive the Lord as my Savior. So in the trucks and those little booklets, there is a prayer at the end. I would pray that prayer, but I was always wondering, well, did God hear me? So I wasn't sure. But again, that passion to go to heaven burned in me when my kuya testified to me. So I decided one day I'll go to the church. And I said, I'll go not to the high service where every Catholics go right away. I said, I'm going to go to the least attended mass. So I went there, and I don't know what happened. There was no mass. That shows you that I don't know the programs of the Catholic Church. But there was a wedding. And I said, but I came here to receive. So I remember myself kneeling in one of the pews of the Roman Catholic Church. I opened the book of Gordon Lindsay, and there is a prayer at the end to receive Christ. And I knelt, and I prayed the sinner's prayer. But I wasn't happy. Yeah. I said, because there's no witness. So there is a Christian church in Tondo. It's called Balut Christian Church. Yeah. And the pastor during that time is a famous broadcaster, Paul Lacanilao. Those of you who are old, perhaps will. Paul Lacanilao is a very good Baptist. He was pastoring the church. And I went there, and I was intimidated because I don't know. The service time says 10 a.m. But I overlooked the fact that there is Sunday school. I don't know what Sunday school is, like at 9 a.m. So I went there, and everybody that was there already was sitting down. Nobody welcomed me, so I stepped in and I said, whoa, everybody's, I'm late. I left, you see. But it didn't discourage me. So I told my kuya finally, when you go to church this Sunday, I'll save some money for transportation. I'll go to church. And that is Pasig Assemblies of God Church, Pasig Bethel Temple. And the only reason why I went there is I want to receive Christ as my Savior. Yeah. I even remember, now that was September 25, 1977. I even remember the sermon. Yeah. I remember the preachers. Pastor Ruben Candelaria is already dead. But I remember the sermon. It's about the lame person, the beautiful gate. That is his preaching. But all I was waiting for was the altar call. And so when the altar call was given, I was the first one to raise my hand. Now, I didn't know that when you raise your hand, you're supposed to stand up and then go forward. That was my first church service. But when Pastor Candelaria says, who wants to receive Christ? I said, I raise my hands. So I thought that's the end of it, you know. But then he said, those who raise their hands, stand up. I said, oops. Yeah. Now I'm committed, so I stood up. And then he said, go to the altar. I look around. Why will I go to the altar? I haven't had that before. But you see, it was my first time to go to church. What drove me was my desire to go to heaven. The desire was enough for me to do all of those things. Nobody invited me to go to church. Nobody. Yeah. I invited myself. Some of you, you're inviting yourselves, or you're being invited 1,000,000 times, and it took 1,000,000 years before you guys go. You know, nobody invited me to go to church. That's one thing that I know. It was a desire, a passion, and in my soul to be with the Lord. You know. Now, if Christians will just be passionate towards their relationship with God, there's nothing. There's nothing that we cannot accomplish as a body. Now, I would suppose because you are here in the U.S., that you have your own passions, that's why you're here. I have a friend in the Philippines in building maintenance. I told you about his story. Beautiful professional girlfriend. His ex-girlfriend is now in Canada. And he broke up with him. And you know, it puzzles me. You've got a beautiful girl right there, a professional, making good money. Why did you break up with her? And then I found out he's about to get married. And I look at the new girlfriend. I look, you know, our prejudiced eyes. I look and say, what happened to you? You know, when you have a very beautiful girl who was a professional, you broke up with her and you married this girl. Not even close. I mean, there is just no contest. So because he's a good friend of mine, we used to watch professional basketball together in the Philippines. So I talked to him privately. I said, "Pare, what happens? You've got a beautiful girl. You broke up with her. I said, then you're marrying this girl. What happened to you?" And a simple answer. He told me this, "Pare, I still have ambition." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "I need to go to America. Whatever it takes, I will go." It turned out the girl is an American citizen. Yeah. Girl is an American citizen. And I guess she waved her blue passport, and that's the ticket, you know. Yeah. But can you imagine the passion to come to America and fulfill his dreams? He gave up. And by the way, that girl married another professional, a mechanical engineer, and worked for Ford Motors in Canada, and they're well off. But these are the things that I saw that anybody can do if they're passionate. Okay? Now, I have not asked you yet whether you are passionate or not, because I would like you to answer that later, if I remember. Okay? If I don't, you ask yourself that question. But we need to develop passions for the blessings of what our faith fathers have. Pastor Gino invited me at one time to a missions forum. Now, these are master's students at Trinity Evangelical Divinity School. That's where my son, John, graduated from. There's a couple of PhDs there, and then master students. And he asked me to speak on this missions forum that he organized. And our agreement is we're going to solicit mission support for the Philippines, because supposedly these are people with passion for missions. So I went there and I listened to the first speaker, and I don't know what he was talking about. And so I leaned towards my wife and I says, "This is not what we think it is, right?" She said, "Yeah, I know. What are they talking about?" Another speaker came out, and I guess he's just interested in showing everybody that he wrote a dissertation. So he presented part of his dissertation, and the more I get bored, I says, "What is this?" You know? And so finally, I stood up and I says, "Hey, listen, I'm sorry," I said, "I'm prepared to talk, but I said, I'm not prepared to talk like this." I said, "I can talk like this, but I said, I'm not prepared to talk like this." And I said, "I thought we're going to talk about what we're going to do in the Philippines." I said, "I thought this is what the mission forum is. What are we going to do on the missions field?" Everybody was quiet. And so I gave my little speech on what we're doing in the Philippines. And then I said, "Hey, listen," I said, "if you're really interested in mission, if you have Christian books, we are helping build libraries in the Philippines. Give me those books." I said, "If you have used clothing that are still good, give me those clothes." I said, "You don't have to worry about shipping and handling. I'll ship them to the Philippines." Not one person gave me a book. Not one. And I told Pastor Gina afterwards, "You bring me to another meeting like that, I'm not going." I said, these are people who are just interested in talking about missions, but they're not doing anything. You see, they don't have the passion for it. Okay? And so a lot of people are very interested in talking about Christianity, about the church, about relationship with God. And we can talk for hours on these things. But there is just no passion. Because if there is no passion, you will not move. Now, the passion for the blessing, what our fathers have, first we saw it in the life of Jacob. Then we saw this in the life of Joseph. In limited scope, because if you're a passionate person, sometimes people will catch that passion, that vision, but they will not catch it all. You look, for example, at Levi and Simeon. Okay, their sister was raped in Shechem, right? And so Jacob doesn't know what to do because they were living in a strange land. So, are we going to pick a fight? You know? Now, most of you are not fathers, but what would you do if your daughter comes to you and say, "Dad, I was raped"? You know? The cowards will just cow out and do nothing. My sister brought to me a case which I refused to handle because it takes a lot of time to handle this. One of their members, church fellowship, her kuya has a best friend. Her dad is a bishop in the Philippines. Her kuya has a best friend. That best friend raped his sister. Yeah. And so she tried to commit suicide several times with no success. And when I saw the girl, I had pity on her. She was super skinny. And you know, most Filipinos are dark. And when you're dark and you become skinny, you become darker. And she looks pitiful. She looks like somebody that is waiting to die. So I said, you should have reported to the police. And I was told, she doesn't like, she told her kuya, "Kuya, your best friend raped me." You know what the kuya said? "Shh, be quiet, that's my best friend." I mean, your sister was raped, you know. I mean, don't tell Dad, because he's a bishop. He may be embarrassed. So here's this poor little girl became very suicidal because the men around her doesn't have any zeal or passion for her. Okay? And so left her alone like that. And so my sister said, "Kuya, will you handle the case?" I said, "No, I will not." I said, because in 1 week I'll be leaving the Philippines. This needs constant follow-up. So I told my sister, "You handle this." And she did not handle it because she was not allowed to handle it. Everybody was hiding from it, you see. Now, in the family of Jacob, it was Levi and Simeon. And so they told everybody in the meeting, "Okay, we'll marry our girls, my sister, to your son, the prince, and we'll allow intermarriage, but we are covenant people. And so we want your males to be circumcised." And Jacob was very nervous. What did my two boys got me into? Because remember, Jacob is very passionate towards the vision. And I said, "What did they get me into?" And so he was nervous. That's what the Bible says. And so all the male, they get circumcised. I mean, what are you going to do if the king says, everybody gets circumcised? Even if you don't like it, you get circumcised because the king said so. So on the third day of being circumcised, now, those of you Filipinos who were never circumcised after you were born, we get circumcised when they're grown up. On the third day, when it is most painful, then Levi and Simeon went there and killed every male. Yeah. That is their passion. And remember when Moses said, those who are on the side of the Lord, stand with me. Strap yourself with swords and kill. Only the Levites did that. These are passionate bunch of people that drives them. They got it. Okay? Limited to that area. Joseph was passionate about the birthright. Now, David was very passionate for the house of God. Now, Genesis chapter 27 is a demonstration of Jacob's passion for blessing in the form of birthright. Now, I'm very aware in this country, a lot of children doesn't have any passion for what their parents have. Okay, I think here one of the culture here is everybody wants to make it on their own. You know, and Philippines is different. The children will be very happy if the parents have something to pass. I've seen though that in America people are passionate about inheritance. You know, they are very passionate about what they never work for, but will just spend. So people here, I've noticed, when it comes to inheritance, I mean low cases against these things, they're very passionate. Okay, but having what the parents had, I've seen less passion. In fact, I've seen people can't wait to leave their families so they can be on their own. There's absolutely no passion. Now Isaac was near death at this point. So instead of calling God's choice, who was Jacob, he called on his own choice to pass on the blessing. He already knew the vision. He already knew the word of the Lord, the word of wisdom that God gave to Rebekah. But he doesn't really care for that. He wants to pass the blessing to Esau. By the way, a lot of people are like that. You can already tell that the blessing or the anointing of God is not on a certain person. But you insist on blessing that person or giving the blessing to that person. That is disobedience. And so Isaac was in that state of disobedience. He refused. I don't know what Jacob did to him, but he refused to pass the blessing to Jacob. Now, however, Rebekah overheard the conversation between Isaac and Esau. And this is where you're going to see in the scriptures, the children sometimes, when they are not attended by their fathers, they get their passion from their mothers. Yeah. Between Isaac and Rebekah, the passion to pass on the blessing was on Rebekah. It was not on Isaac. Isaac wants to give the blessing to, by the way, Joseph was telling me that in Saudi Arabia, they recognize Esau, they recognize Ishmael, not Isaac. I said, are you sure? He said, yeah, Papa, they all just talk about Ishmael here. They're ignoring Isaac. I said, well, I can understand that. But here, Jacob got the passion from Rebekah. And so, in the scriptures, we can see the passion that mothers already pass on to their children, you know. And we saw this also in the life of Timothy. The passion was in his grandmother Lois and then on his mother Eunice. The males in the family were not mentioned. I mean, they're dead woods. And there are some houses like that. There's no passion on the male, and so when there's no passion on the male, the passion of the woman is the one passed on to the children. And they are, these women like these are not pushovers. They have strong personalities. They know how to submit, but they have their own passions. Rebekah is determined that she will help Jacob get the promised birthright. You know, I don't know what kind of mothers you have, but I'm passionate about the education of my kids. But my wife has more passion than me. I mean, she works hard to make sure that my kids get good education. Yeah, she's the one who goes crazy. If my kids don't go do their homework, she will tell me, look at these kids, they're not doing the. I said, let them fail. I just let them fail. And in the morning when they're still sleeping and time for school, my wife will say, call your kids, they will be late. I said, no. I said, let them be late. This is what I said, let them fail, let them repeat school. They have to learn, by now they have to be responsible. But my wife will and there were times they were almost late. Are you going to drive them to school? I said, no. No. Well, they're not going to make it. Then they won't. I said, because I'm into, you have to be self-driven. You have to have your own initiative. I don't like pushing people to do what they're supposed to be doing. I just expect people to be responsible. And so these are different exchange that we have. But my wife is very passionate. That's why we moved to Edgebrook. I mean, can you imagine, we bought a house in Edgebrook, that rotten house. It's no longer rotten today. But we bought that rotten house primarily not because of me, primarily because my wife was very passionate. Our children need to have great education. Yeah. And she will help them do their homework. I mean, some of you do the project of your kids. I disagree with that, because then you're being graded, not the kids. And it's unfair for the other kids. But then it turned out most of the parents do that, So when it comes to the projects, it's not the kids, it's the parents competing against each other, Now, Isaac called for Esau. Rebecca heard it. She was a very, well, she was a gossip, The girl was eavesdropping. No privacy. And so she told Jacob, hey, quickly, prepare some stew for your dad. He likes that, I said, Mom, I cannot. Why not? I'm not hairy. Esau is hairy. Oh, simple. Get his clothes. But I don't smell. I mean, obviously this boy takes a shower every day, but not Esau, So should I, get his dirty clothes, and he will smell the goat and he will think it's Esau. I mean, Esau, it smells like a goat. And I'll cook. I know what your dad's favorite is. What about if my dad, he has no eyeglasses, What about if he hears me talk? He's got bad hearing. There were no hearing aids. I mean, one of the blessings of Jacob is there were no eyeglasses and there were no hearing aids. And so, what about if my dad hears me talk? Oh, he's got bad ears, and he went there. He doesn't like it. You know who pushed him? The mom. Yeah, the mom. Now, I'm wondering how many of you are here because you were just pushed by your mom. That is sad. But or pushed by your dad for that matter, because in other cases like that. But Jacob was still scared. What if he finds out it's me and it's not Esau and he cursed me? And she said this, let the curse fall on me. What a passionate mother. She has no passion for Esau. She could care less. But for Jacob, because the word of the Lord came, Jacob will have the blessing. And she has passion for that. She said, let me have the curse. Okay, if you say so. In those days, words like that, that's the same as taking an oath. But this is a mother whose passion for her son is so intense. And you know what happened when finally it was discovered by Esau that Jacob had already taken the blessing. because of the soup, Esau is the type of guy that when he's hungry, he wants to eat right away. So instead of cooking, he sold his birthright with a bowl of soup. But then he said, this guy stole my blessing. He already got the birthright. Now he stole the blessing. It turned out they're different. Yeah. They're different. Birthright is about properties. But now the blessing is different. That's the blessing of Abraham, passed on to Isaac. Now it's passed on to Jacob. He said, I will just wait for my father to die. after he dies, I'll kill my brother. And so Rebekah intervened. Send your son to Laban's property. And he did. And because he already gave him the blessing. And guess what? Jacob and Rebekah look at each other and say, Mom, I'm going away because of your scheme. And they say goodbye. They hug and kiss. And they say goodbye. And they never saw each other again. Okay? But she was willing to risk it. Now that is passion right there. You see? That is passion right there. The mom willing to risk it all so that his boy will have the blessing. I'm telling you, most mom today don't have that. You know, they will not do anything even if their kids go to hell. But this guy has, this woman has this kind of passion. So now it turned out Jacob and Rebekah deceived Jacob. This was never condoned by God. They both suffer. Now later, after his encounter with the angel of the Lord, Jacob went through what Abraham went through, a change of name. He's now Israel. He got what was promised, and God blessed him. Now among the children of Israel, it was Joseph who displayed passion for the blessing. Now this is an interesting thing because Jacob has 12 boys and 1 girl. Okay? And these are the 12 tribes of Israel. Did you guys notice that among the 12 tribes, they have different passions? Nobody got everything from it. You have to have the 12 tribes to have the complete Jacob. Now, Joseph is well known because of his passion for the birthright. Okay? And dreams. He stayed close to his dad. He is dad's favorite son because he came out of Persia. His beloved wife. The other one was not, is more like a concubine, but has more children, you know. But now he's got this, and he would listen to his dad, and his dad will share to him his life story, gave him a coat of many colors. And we think that everything was passed on to Jacob. No. Now remember, Joseph is a homeboy, you know, like Jacob. Each have different passions. The scepter, the Messiah, the scepter belongs to whom? To Judah. And the Bible says, the scepter shall not leave Judah. Oh, for the Messiah, it's Judah. Judah means praise. The priesthood, to go in the presence of God, went to Levi. And by the way, if you look at Genesis chapter 50, in terms of the prophecies made to 12 tribes, each have a different passion. So you can tell, that's why I say Jacob is the most passionate patriarch that we can see. It took 12 male to get his passion. Okay? 12 children. And so sometimes, as parents, you will notice that, that some of your kids will not have all the passions that you have. You know, I can see that from my boys. You know, Joseph and James, in a lot of ways, are similar. Okay, you know, John is very different. But John's passion for the word is very strong. Okay. Love for God. Joel has it. I mean, Joel has a different heart in terms of loving God. DJ has a different passion. You know, she got the passion of her mom for bags and shoes. And she has other passions that I will not discuss. That's it, you know. But it seems like each took something from me and my wife. Okay? The sad thing, of course, is if you are a parent and you look at your children and you say, are these really my children? Because nothing from you is on them. Now, the passions are caught like vision, more than taught. That if you are with somebody, I don't know what movie is it that Joel watched, and he wants to learn martial arts. So he caught it, you know. And then he wants to learn music, and he's progressing very well right now in his music study. I mean, I have live music in the house every day, you know. Joel wakes up in the morning. Sometimes even before brushing his teeth, he plays his piano. And then if there are 5 more minutes before going to school, he plays his piano. My kids, Joseph, James, they come from school. What's the first thing that they open? The refrigerator. Yeah. Joel, the first thing he opens, his piano. Before he sleeps, sometimes at 12 midnight, if he's not sleeping, he's got a passion for this. You see, each of them got this. So now, we have our own families, you and I. We have our faith. What kind of passion are we passing on to our children? Let's talk about Jacob, a man of intense passion. I have to qualify his passion. It's very intense. You know? Never a patriarch that's more passionate than Jacob. So, of course, we can say that Abraham is passionate, but really Jacob is more passionate. When we talk about a passion, Jacob is a primary example. It seems like everything that he did, he always gives it all. Sometimes you say, all zeal with no brains. Now, the Bible says this. One of the reasons why Israel made a lot of mistakes is because they have zeal without knowledge. You can be very zealous about something, you can be very passionate about something. If you have no knowledge, it can be very destructive. Remember that messenger who wants to report on what happened in the battlefield between the army of David, Joab, and the army of Absalom? The person, I want to run. He wants to see the king. And Joab says, no, because he doesn't have the message. And then he sent another runner to say that the battle was won. But the other one, he just ran because I want to run. So he ran. He came to, no message, step aside. You see? Some people are just very passionate. Let's do something. I want to do something. What do you want to do? I just want to do something. There's no knowledge. Okay? So, passion has to have knowledge, so it will be useful. And so Jacob has that. But when he was beginning in his life, he lacked knowledge. For example, he doesn't have the faith that if God promises you will have the birthright, you don't have to deceive Isaac. You don't have to connive with your mom. You don't have to scheme with your mom. You see, people who has no faith in God are very scheming. They scheme. Let's do this. Very scheming. That's Rebecca. She schemed so that Jacob will have the blessing. Both of them lack knowledge. They lack the faith. They lack the faith that if they continue to serve God, God will make it happen. And so, we learned this in our past studies on the life of Jacob. He was always doing things without God's permission because he was just driven by his passion. And some people are like that. That's why some people are like Ninga Sugon, patay sindi. You know, they'll be very hype up. Ninga Sugon is something that is highly flammable, but it will burn and then fire will dissipate right away. And so some people are like, they're very passionate. They burn and then it's gone. And then they have something else. They have no knowledge. In the New Testament, it was Paul, outside of Jesus, who displayed the most passion, known as zeal. Jesus was consumed, as I said earlier, with his zeal for the house of God. I mean, I wonder if I ask that question, how many of you have zeal for the house of God? Because if you have zeal for the house of God, you will make sure that the house of the Lord stays right in the sight of God. You know? Some people say, well, Jesus is passionate, so he cleaned up the mind changers because there are birds there. No, that's not it. The zeal of the house of God, because you're not supposed to be selling stuff in the house of the Lord. I mean, you're not supposed to be, I'll be honest with you, you're not supposed to be doing network marketing here. Okay? You're not supposed to be doing that. That's what those people were doing. But some people doesn't have zeal for the house of God, they just keep doing business in the house of the Lord. No, of course our business contacts will be here, but we have to separate the service. Brother Willie was telling me that his wife sells, I think, insurance. If somebody approach her in the church and say, Sister Cherry, here's my payment. Sister Cherry will say, don't do that. After the service, outside of the house of God, we can talk business, but not in the house of God. That means she has zeal to make sure that when you are in the house of God, your focus is on God, your focus is on worship. Can you imagine if you're worshiping, oops, dumating nang may utang sa akin. Anak, tabihan mo na. Baka makawala pa. You know? Then you are not really worshiping. Or you are in need, you cannot pay your debts, and you come to the house of the Lord and bigla, oh, yung pala inutangan ko. So you leave. There is no passion there. You see? That's why Jesus said, the zeal of thine house consumed me. It consumed him enough to do something like that. The zeal is the same with Paul. This guy has struggled. He knows how to abound. He knows how to have a full belly. He knows how to have an empty stomach, and some faith teachers don't like that, and so they explain it away. But David has a whole range of experiences in his life. But he was so passionate, he said, I'm not going to get married. Yeah. He said, I deserve it. That means he's got a desire to be married. But he said, what kind of marriage will I have? I'm always on the road. I'm always on the go. And sometimes I'm being threatened. And he was thinking, if I get married, my wife will be threatened. If I have kids, they will be threatened. He said, I don't have time to worry about those things. So he said, I will not take advice. And said that, he wrote that in his books. He said, I will not have the privilege that other apostles are enjoying, like Peter has a wife. He said, I'm not going to have that. And he was so passionate, he told his people, I wish, he was not imposing, you will stay as I am. Who is he? He was just focused on the heavenly vision. And he looked at Agrippa and says, oh, Agrippa, but I am not unfaithful to the heavenly vision. Paul was a very passionate man. So where did Jacob get his passion? Again, I am almost certain that he did not get it from Isaac. He probably got it from Rebekah. Genesis chapter 27. Let's start reading from verse 1. When Isaac was old, you know, some people say if you're living by faith, you will not confess you're old. My wife rebukes me when I say I'm old, you know. But here the Bible calls Isaac old, so there's nothing wrong with knowing that you're old, okay? When Isaac was old and his eyes were so weak, he could not see, he called his older son Esau and said to him, my son. He answered, here I am. He said, look, I am old and do not know the day of my death. So now take your hunting gear, your quiver and bow, and go out in the field to hunt some game for me. Then make me a delicious meal of venison that I love, and bring it to me to eat. You see, that's why Rebekah knows how to cook it. So that I can bless you before I die. Well, what he was telling Esau is, you're not going to get the blessing for free. By the way, the blessing of the Lord is for free, but you're going to have to show some passion for it, you know. Some people think, well, if God wants to use me, he will use me. No. There's got to be some passion for it. Now, this is one of the things they said. You look at the scriptures, every person whom God called, they're always working. God has never called a lazy person in the scriptures. They are always doing something. And sometimes in the church, well, that person is not doing anything, let's make him a volunteer. No, people who are not doing anything, don't make them volunteers. They will continue to do nothing. Don't call lazy people into the ministry or in the leadership. So here, so I can bless you before I die. Do something. Show me something. Catch me some game. Show me that you have passion for this. Because you're gonna have to go out into the wild, you know, and catch some game. Show me that you're gonna do it. You see. Now Rebekah was listening to what Isaac said to his son Esau. So while Esau went out to the field to hunt some game to bring in, Rebekah said to her son Jacob, "Listen, I heard your father talking with your brother Esau," he said. "Bring me game and make a delicious meal for me to eat so that I can bless you in the Lord's presence before I die. Now, my son, listen to me and do what I tell you. Go to the flock and bring me 2 choice young goats." So she said to Jacob, "Go hunt among the flock. You don't have to go out, And I will make them into a delicious meal for your father, the kind he loves. Then take it to your father to eat so that he may bless you before he dies." Jacob answered Rebekah, his mother, "Look, my brother Esau is a hairy man, but I am a smooth skin. Suppose my father touches me, then I will be revealed to him as a deceiver and bring a curse rather than a blessing on myself." His mother said to him, "Your curse be on me, my son. Just obey me and get them for me." So he went and got the goats and brought them to his mother, and his mother made the delicious food his father loved. Then Rebekah took the best clothes of her older son Esau, which were in the house, and had her younger son Jacob wear them. She put the skins on the young goats on his hands and the smooth part of his neck. Then she handed the delicious food and the bread she had made for her son Jacob. Now, you see, this was, we call Jacob a deceiver, right? He was a deceiver not because he schemed the deception. It was her mom. It wasn't Jacob's idea. People forget that. It wasn't Jacob's idea. It was the mom's idea. And how many mom do you know, or dad do you know, put their kids on their deception? This is happening in the scriptures. But I will give it to Rebekah and say, her deception is for Jacob to get the blessing. Now, that's not how you get the blessing, though, supposedly, The prophecy was already given, but she doesn't have enough faith to know that God will make it through. This was a forceful, how do you call that? This is a hostile takeover. In business, they what they call as a hostile. This is a hostile takeover, and Jacob was exposed to that. First, in getting the birthright, it was very hostile. "Hey, Jacob, I am famished and I'm dying." When somebody is saying, "I am famished and I'm dying," hey, get something to eat. He said, "I want your birthright." This was a hostile takeover. And this is another hostile takeover. This was now schemed by his mother. So some mothers scheme something like this, and their children says, "What if I'm discovered?" "You're on your own, son." Rebekah said, "If you're discovered, the curse that your father will declare is on me." This is a very passionate mom here. So, listen, I think this is a very important lesson that we need to learn here. Do not let your passion get the best of you. Now, all of us here can identify with this. Sometimes we are very passionate about something. We allow that passion to get the best of us. My wife had told you the story. Was it your 18th or 21st birthday? I forgot. You're going to be given a party or something. And her dad asked her, "What do you want, a party or a car?" Now, she knows good names in the Philippines. All her girlfriends have a party. And the rich people in the Philippines have a party. She want to be like them. So she said, "I want to have my party." And her dad says, "Are you sure, Anne? A party or a car. Well, she allowed her passion to be like her friends who's got a big party to get the best of her. So she said, a party, Dad. Are you sure, daughter? A party, Dad. Because everybody has a party. Now, after that one night party, she woke up and says, how foolish. I should have asked for a car. How many young women in the Philippines owns a car? She forgot about, because her passion get the best of her. If your passion lacks knowledge, you will make foolish decisions. The passion of Rebecca get the best of her. And remember, after this, and she couldn't control herself, after this, she no longer saw her son, whom she loves. You see? You'll pay for it. The moment you let all of us have our own passion. I mean, simple thing. I want to buy this. Do you really need that? I want to buy this. Do you really need that? Yeah, I can't live without that. Of course you can live without that. You have not had that since you were born. But now you cannot live without that. Your zeal, your passion get the best of you. And without knowledge, when we make decisions in the heat of passion, that's when we make the most mistakes. That sometimes we regret for the rest of our lives. And literally here, for the rest of her life. She never saw Jacob again. Zeal without knowledge can be very destructive. Romans 10 verse 1. Brothers and sisters, my heart's desire and prayer to God concerning them is for their salvation. I can testify about them that they have zeal for God, but not according. Let's kill Jesus. They don't know he's the Messiah. They lack the knowledge. Well, the priests know he's the Messiah, from one of the parables that Jesus said. But they want their power. Zeal without knowledge. And today we are can you imagine? Now this country is more polarized because of the overturning of Roe v. Wade. But what I don't understand is this. People marching on the street to kill their babies. No, there is absolute ignorance there. You know. Can you imagine to call them fetus now? It's a baby. And now a state passed a law that even after the baby is born, a baby is already born and can still be aborted. No, it's murder. They can't, that's their passion. And people don't understand, why is it? That's their passion. Lacking knowledge, but that's their passion. And people say, well, I can't understand this. Of course you can. There's no knowledge there. There's no knowledge there. You know, growing up, people sleep around. You know, growing up, people don't parade it around. Hey, are you sleeping? No, we're not. Somebody saw you coming out of the hotel. No, we're not. They're very shy about it. Now they're not. That's their passion. And because of their passion, we have young women getting pregnant and they could not finish their careers. Some young men having children at a very young age. I mean, we know of some people, all of their children are firstborn. How in the world are you going to live like that? You see, it's just, but they're very passionate. I love him. That's their passion. With no brains. Okay? So they end up destroying their lives. That's why we say, control yourself. See? Because a person who cannot control yourself is a person who is driven by their passion. So Jacob ended up nurturing this passion in his spirit. Passion became a driving force in what Jacob has become. Later on, of course, his passion was added with knowledge. It was enriched by knowledge. But to begin with, there was absolutely no knowledge. First of all, Jacob was passionate about his birthright. This rightfully belongs to Esau. But people say, well, there was prophecy. Well, let me explain to you what prophecy is. Some prophecies are unconditional, okay? Meaning, whether you like it or not, the Messiah was born. Whether you like it or not, the Messiah will return. So, Whether you like it or not, there is heaven and there is hell. There are certain things that are unconditional prophecies. Most prophecies in the Bible are conditional. Okay, this is conditional. For example, when the Bible gives the prophecy to Rebekah, because Romans chapter 8 says this, predestination is based on foreknowledge. Okay? Whom he foreknew, he also predestined. That's what Romans chapter 8 says. Foreknowledge comes before predestination. It's not the other way around. It doesn't say, whom he predestined, he foreknew. No. Whom he foreknew, he predestined. So foreknowledge comes before predestination. What I mean by this is this. God knew beforehand that Esau will despise the birthright. Therefore, he gave it to Jacob. Because it has to stay in the family. It has to stay in Abraham. So, this is a conditional prophecy. The reason why the prophecy was Jacob will have the birthright is because God foreknew Esau will despise the birthright. Okay? Sometimes you wonder, why is it? Why is it? Why is it that Jesus called Judas? Because at a certain point, Judas loved Jesus. If you love Jesus, God will never among the Jews in those days, Judas was, so he allows it. He foreknew that, predestined him to be one of the apostles. But he also knew that at one point he will betray the Lord. Predestined him to be the one who will dip his bread in the bowl of Jesus and betray him. You see, these are people that what's confusing to people. Foreknowledge precedes, comes before predestination. So, having the birthright is not just a passion for a blessing. Having a birthright, it requires responsibility. You know, some people are very passionate. I want to own my business. Now, that's a passion. Will you take the responsibility? When we first got married, and especially when of course, the grandfather died and the father died, who will take over the Bessa Shoes business? You know, her sisters have their own Bessa Shoes, and then her kuya. And so, I have to address that. I don't believe that wives should let go of their vision just because they get married. So I talked to my wife. I said, Anne, where are you at this? I said, if you like to, I told my wife, if you like to start a Bessa's shoe business, I said, I will not stop you. I told her that because if she has a vision for that, I said, I will not stop you. I said, we'll work together on that one. I said, you know, I have plans to go to the Philippines. I have no problem with that. And my wife looked at me and says, yeah, when you go back to the Philippines, she said, I don't want you to beg for money. So she said, I want you to have a financial backbone that will support what you want. And for I said, whoa, that is nice that your wife wants to support. But she said, let me think about it. So I asked her again, sometime later, Anne, do you want to start a shoe business named Bessas? And she looked at me and says, no. She said, I don't have that anymore. She said, my passion is to support whatever vision God gives you now. And she told me this several times. She said, I'm your wife now. She said, whatever vision you have, that I will support. And she has been through that. But she said, forget the shoe business. She said, forget that. She's willing to walk away from it. You see? What I'm saying is this. Because you don't only have the passion, you need the responsibility. Oh, I love that woman. I want to sleep with her. I have no problem with that. Get the responsibility. That comes along with it. First, get married. Yeah. After you get married, then you can cohabitate. Oh, I don't want that. This is 21st century. No, this is 21st century sin. That has been the same sin ever since the beginning. This is still called sin. Premarital sex is still sin. I don't care if this fallen society accept it. It is still sin in the Bible. You want you want that man, you want that woman, no problem with that. I'm burning, no problem with that. Paul talks about that. Okay, get married. Get married. But most people just give in to their passion. They don't want to take the responsibility. Every passion. I want, Mom, Dad, I want to be an engineer. That's my passion. Hey, son, remember, I sent you to school. Cost money. Are you willing to take on the responsibility? Will you study? Yes, I will. And then never study. Going to clubs, going to parties. You're irresponsible. This is the sad thing. You committed others to support you. I remember before, a group of Filipinos here came to me. They started an organization. I wish they're listening to this sometime later. You know, they call it. They have an organization called FIRE. You know, that's a very catchy word. FIRE. I ask, what does FIRE means? Filipinos in revival for eternity. I mean, they will already be in heaven and they will still be having revival, you know. So, but Filipinos in revival for eternity. And one of my associates came to me and said, Pastor, I would like, okay, I listen. Boy, I like the vision. Filipinos in revival for eternity. It only lasts for a couple of months. Yeah. And I committed. When I heard the vision, I said, okay, I'll join you. I said that. Now, during the time, I was the only one with the church behind it. You know, all of them were associates, and some are not even associates. But I said, I'll support this. I'll go with you. I'll commit to this. And so they drop it. I remember talking to the person who introduced that to me. I said, you guys are very responsible. You made me to commit to something, and you walk away from it. I held them accountable. I said, you made me get the vision, support it, and then you walk away from it. Very irresponsible Filipinos. You see? The moment you say, I'm passionate over this thing, have the responsibility that comes along. I want to get married. Whoa. Are you willing to take the responsibility? You know, are you willing to take that responsibility? Because passion without knowledge can be very destructive. I want to start a business. Do you know what it takes? A group of Filipinos in this church came to me before. We want to start a business. Good business. I like the business. So they sat with me. Maybe they thought I will just sit there and say, bless you. I'm not like that. I'm not that kind of minister, you know. So I said, who's going to quit their job? Nobody wants to quit their job. I said, why said nobody wants to quit their job? Well, just in case it fails. Oh, you're planning to fail already. I said, don't start a business. Yeah. And I ran down, so they have the passion. They don't want to take the responsibility. Now, I can say it because when me and my wife became very passionate for each other, look, she flew all the way from the U.S., dropped her business interest in the Philippines, vacate all of that to come here and be joined with a man with $167 when I married her. Now, that requires some passion. Look, she grew up with a nanny. She can try to cook. She doesn't know how to cook. She doesn't know how to use the washing machine. She doesn't know how to wash dishes. She doesn't even know how to hold a baby. Things that she knows right now, she doesn't know them before. But when we got married, she went ahead and took the responsibility and learned them all. Right now, she's laughing at me. She said, oh, he doesn't even know how to use the microwave. Well, because it's computerized now, you know. But I taught her all of those things. Yeah, she doesn't know how to do this. She doesn't know how to take care of babies. I taught her those things. Yeah. But she embraced it. She embraced it. She said she doesn't really cook. My favorite cooking is my wife's cooking. I love it when she cooks. She took on the responsibility. You see? Not only should you have passion, when you go for something that you're very passionate about, you need. Jacob was like that. Okay, I like the birthright. I like the blessing. He took on the responsibility. This boy went through hell, but he never let go of it. You see, ganito pala kahirap. I don't like it anymore. Not Jacob. Jacob lived through hell in periods of his life, but he never let go. A lot of people quit because they move with passion. They don't want the responsibility. Oh, ganun pala. I don't like it anymore. But you move with passion. Jacob got the birthright from Esau, and he got the blessing from his father Isaac. We need also to mix this passion with patience, one of the fruits of the Spirit. Now, if you are passionate about something, your patience will be tried. You know, we're very happy with the good news. You know, one of the passions I have is for my family. I know one day they're going to own their own houses and all of those things, but I'll keep them as close as I can to the day I die. You know, Joseph called the other day and said, "Papa, I now know my next assignment." He was very excited. I said, we were thinking, are you going to go to Germany? Where are you going to go next? Or Florida? He said, I'm going to go to Ohio. That's my next assignment. I said, wow, it's very close. You know, and her mom and his mom, buy your house in Chicago. That's her passion, houses, you know. Let's and just said, Mom, hold it, you know. But he's got the, but I look at, hey Joseph, you told me that the Air Force Master's program is in Ohio. Maybe you can take your Master's now. Because I want to pass it. I passed that to him. But you know what he says? Well, I will be very close to home. I will be closer to home this time. I like that, you see. But these are certain things that we need to understand. This is why I believe that there are many times Jacob was not able to control himself. Can you imagine on his wedding night? He looked, whoa, you don't look like Rachel. Because the Bible says that Rachel is beautiful and sexy. This woman is duling, you know. So what you know, the soft eye, it's duling, you know. That's why he doesn't like Leah. Hey, Leah, come here. Yes, Jacob. I'm here, you know. What would you do if you're in that situation? You know the one who learned from this lesson? Who's the one who learned from this lesson the most? Joseph. Potiphar's wife is taking her clothes off. He ran away. What is it that Jacob should have done? Walk away from the tent. You're not. You should have. Oh, I'm sorry. Is this the wrong address? You know. I was just married to Rachel. Wrong address, meaning wrong tent. You know, tent number 1, tent number 2. That's their address in those days. Or wrong tent. He should have. I'm sorry, Leah. Oh no, he decided because he's a very sexual person. You can tell he's got 12 kids and 1 daughter. You know, so he slept with Leah. He should have said, no, not this one. Not this one. And there are some people like that. Could not control themselves. But this is the passion of Jacob. Therefore, it needs patience. Patience is one of the fruits of the Spirit. Look, if you are passionate about something, it may not happen right away. You gotta wait. Now, after I get born again, I like to be married. I got married at 32. I could have gotten married in the Philippines. My wife got nervous because when we had a joint account, I told my wife, whoa, we've got money. Let's get married now, you know. And she always yeah, but I want to get my master's. I'm not ready for this. I waited because you have to mix knowledge with look, you're gonna marry somebody. Boyfriend mo pa lang or he's still your girlfriend, already unfaithful. You should head. You have passion? Mix knowledge with it. You see, mix knowledge with it. If you don't mix knowledge with it, you will suffer. You see, that's why you have to be patient. Maybe this now. Why in the world did I deceive Esau? So he has got a lifetime enemy. They're still enemies to this day. He should have waited. Had he waited upon the Lord, God would have given it to him. And sometimes we always move ahead of God's schedule because we're just moved with passion. The passion for the birthright became an occasion for him to self-exile himself in Haran. And what was promised by the Lord was not Haran. He could have stayed there and said, well, I'm now the best worker in the house of Laban. His sons doesn't know how to do this kind of business. He could have taken over the business of Laban. But he's passionate about the birthright. The birthright involves the land. What land? The promised land. He's got to go back after a couple of decades. But it was never driven out of here. You know, if I'll tell you this. If I walk around this room this morning, and all of you will be honest, and some of you have conversations with me before regarding your passions, where is it now? Where is it? Oh, I got too old, I gave up. Oh, it's too late now. Who told you it's too late? You see, part of the fruition or the execution of the passion is actually patience. God will never give it to you just because you like it. You have to mature, you have to develop your personality, you have to grow. If you refuse to go to that responsibility stages, you will never get it. Okay? So a lot of people die without fulfilling their passion. Well, we'll continue tonight, okay? Let's all stand. Praise God. You learned something this morning? Praise God. We'll